Tonight, the massive operation to take down one of Queensland's most wanted. Mid-air emergency as a Brisbane-bound Qantas flight plummets 20,000 feet. How a gunman lay in wait for 12 hours to take aim at Donald Trump. Rupert Murdoch's children head to court in a battle over his empire. Why you could soon be slugged $7 for a regular cup of coffee. Plus the new schemes taking the money stress out of the festive season.
This is 9 News Queensland with Andrew Lofthouse.
Good evening. Dramatic scenes have unfolded on the Bruce Highway. Police taking down a wanted man after a woman was allegedly held against her will on the Sunshine Coast. Only our cameras were there as officers moved in with innocent motorists caught up in the carnage.
Taken down on the side of the Bruce Highway after a wild car chase. This is Anthony Sebastian Oliver. And he's accused of a string of violent crimes. Police telling 9 News he's one of Queensland's most wanted.
It's a serious criminal matter, hence why we had to take the action that we've taken.
The drama began around 6:30 last night at Nambour. Police allege the 21-year-old forced a woman inside this Mazda 3 and took off, driving at speed along Nambour Connection Road.
Sunshine Coast Police were advised of a high-risk offender in the area. We used a covert method to track the vehicle and used the tyre deflation devices to disable the vehicle.
That's when police say he became desperate, sprinting to this RAV4 where he allegedly dragged out the 64-year-old driver and punched him in the head. The quick-thinking passenger switched off the engine and with nowhere to go, his time was up.
Unbelievable, really brave, and to have the mindset to, carry out that action in the heat of that incident, take my hat up to a full credit.
Other innocent drivers also caught up in the drama. The Road Spikes police rolled out to get their man, puncturing the tyres of several cars.
And I heard like a clunk, like going over a manhole, and then my car started to pull to one side, and everyone was pulling over in front of me, and then I realised, my tyres were spiked. This is a bit of collateral damage to get one of the most wanted men in Queensland.
When Anthony Sebastian Oliver entered the Maroochydore Magistrates Court today, he was facing just 3 charges, but that number quickly rose, an additional 31 charges added to his now long rap sheet. Those relate to, at times, violent crimes he's accused of committing over the past few weeks. His lawyer had little to say outside court. Have you had a chance to speak with Mr. Oliver at all?
I'd prefer not to say anything, thank you.
With no application made for bail, he remains in a cell tonight. He'll be back before court in November. Bailey Kenzie, 9 News.
A Qantas flight from Townsville to Brisbane has dropped 20,000 feet in a matter of minutes after losing cabin pressure. While the pilot followed standard procedure, some passengers have criticised a lack of communication by the airline after their emergency landing in Rockhampton.
On board a full Qantas flight 1871, an unexpected problem.
Or just to keep you in the loop, passing about 29,000 feet, we lost pressurisation.
The mid-air emergency identified around 20 minutes after the Alliance plane left Townsville bound for Brisbane, forcing the pilot to drop more than 21,000 feet in 6 minutes to a level where oxygen masks wouldn't be required.
It just said emergency descent, so we started coming down.
It was quite scary because your stomach just jumps.
Sparking a priority landing in Rockhampton.
At this altitude we've come down to, we can't continue to Brisbane because we don't have the required fuel. As we do come lower, we tend to burn a lot more fuel. I do apologise for this inconvenience, but safety is paramount.
Touching down on solid ground where maintenance crews were waiting, all 94 passengers then put on the airline's next 2 flights out.
There was zero communication on the ground, so the only way we found out what was going on was to check the Qantas app, and that was changing back forth with different flights, different times.
Andrew and Shelley among those who then faced other delays in Brisbane.
We're heading to Harvey Bay back home today, but we've missed our flight this morning, but we're on another one this afternoon.
While Naomi's now fearing her flight back to Townsville on Thursday.
Not looking forward to it, to be honest. I'm actually quite sick in the stomach from the whole scenario today.
Kate Lamb, 9 News.
A pilot in his 50s has been pulled to safety moments after his plane went down in the scenic rim. The light aircraft crashed in a field beside the Boona airfield shortly after takeoff, the impact trapping the sole occupant inside the wreckage before sparking a grass fire. He was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police are tonight searching for a driver who struck an e-scooter rider on the Gold Coast. Live now to McKenna Bailey in Surfers Paradise. McKenna, he was essentially left for dead.
On the side of a narrow road in Pimpama, Andrew, a 25-year-old man was travelling on his e-scooter along Rifle Range Road just before 7 o'clock this morning when he was struck by a Mazda ute, knocking him to the ground. The driver of the car failing to stop, leaving the young man seriously injured on the side of the road. He was rushed to Gold Coast University Hospital with neck pain and a suspected spinal injury. Police were also quick on scene, directing a backlog of traffic as the forensic crash unit collected evidence. Still working to try and track down the person responsible for this hit and run. Investigators are appealing for witnesses or anyone with dashcam vision to contact police. Andrew, we can confirm tonight the 25-year-old rider remains stable in hospital.
Oh, that's good news. McKenna, thank you. Chilling new details have emerged about the second attempt on Donald Trump's life. Suspect Ryan Wesley Routh stalked the scene beforehand. Cell data revealing that he was lying in wait for nearly 12 hours. The former president today revealing his version of events.
Keep walking! Shuffling backwards with his hands behind his head. This is the moment would-be assassin Ryan Routh was taken into custody.
It was probably the highest profile stop this sheriff's office has ever made.
And a day after targeting one of the highest profile people in America, Routh found himself shackled in a Florida courthouse, the 58-year-old occasionally smiling. He's facing federal gun charges, including possession of a firearm while a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Neither charge related to Donald Trump, but that will come.
Our FBI's Honolulu and Charlotte field offices have initiated interviews of several family members, friends, and former colleagues of the subject.
The former president breaking his silence with an interview on X.
All of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me. I was with an agent, and the agent did a fantastic job. There was no question that we were off that course. I would have loved to have sank that last putt, but we decided, well, let's get out of here.
Trump International Golf Course remains a crime scene. The Secret Service acting director assuring Trump he has the highest level of protection.
This is the perimeter of Donald Trump's golf course. You can see that taped off area with investigators. It's around 100 metres down the road. That is where this gunman lie waiting. And thanks to his phone data, we now know that Ryan Routh may have been there for up to 12 hours.
But he never got a glimpse of Trump, not even close.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
Trump has joked privately that the incident had interrupted a great round of golf, that he was 2 under par. But publicly, and without evidence, the former president took aim at his political rivals for putting his life in danger. He believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris and he acted on it. Their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at. Trump later spoke to Joe Biden on the phone. The White House says it was a cordial conversation where the president conveyed his relief that he is safe.
The left needs to tone down the rhetoric and needs to cut this crap out. Somebody's going to get hurt by it.
2 assassination attempts in 2 months won't slow Trump down. His planned rally in Michigan going ahead tomorrow. The Secret Service must navigate his hectic schedule in a race to the White House that has been defined by anger and threats.
We need to get out of a reactive model and get to a readiness model.
In West Palm Beach, Florida, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
The construction industry was brought to a halt today as hundreds of workers rallied in the city in support of the CFMEU. The embattled union now bringing its fight before the High Court, arguing the federal government's actions are unconstitutional and un-Australian.
In Aroma Street parkland, a trickle of tradies and union supporters quickly becomes a flood. This rally organised by Your Union, Your Choice, a group created by former CFMEU leaders who were sacked when the union was plunged into administration by the federal government due to allegations it had been infiltrated by outlaw motorcycle gangs.
They pulled the trigger without any evidence. They pulled the trigger without anyone even being given a fair trial. The irony of this is that we've ended up with less rights than any worker in the country.
Leaders of supportive unions such as the QTU and AWU also grabbing the microphone. The message is simple. When one union is cut, they all bleed.
And my members in my union said, yes, we're with the CFMEU.
The fight will now be taken to the High Court of Australia on the grounds the government's actions were unconstitutional.
Because if they get away with this argument in industrial relations, in trying to shut down the CFMEU, every government will use it for other different types of legislation. So this is about democracy.
But they say the High Court is no silver bullet and everyone needs to keep supporting the campaign.
Whether you love or hate the CFMEU, there is a real concern that this is a very dangerous precedent.
And there could be some disruption on the streets of both Melbourne and Sydney tomorrow as workers there rally in support of the CFMEU. The Victorian government already warning participants to be on their best behaviour or risk facing the consequences. Cam Inglis, 9 News. Fallen TV star Andrew O'Keefe has been slammed by a Sydney magistrate, saying he's lucky to be alive after a drug overdose at the weekend. The 52-year-old faced court for possessing the drug ice and breaching bail, where he was labelled a frequent flyer who'd failed previous attempts at rehabilitation.
It would be inappropriate to comment at this stage. That's all we can say. You heard the magistrate's comments. You've heard the date that it's gone over to.
O'Keefe didn't apply for bail. He'll remain in custody until at least the 10th of October. Talk is cheap, houses are not. Yet tonight there are more conversations and less construction coming out of Canberra. The government's latest attempt at new housing laws stuck in the Senate as new figures show there are fewer properties available to rent.
In the Red House, housing policy gets the red light.
There being 21 ayes and 38 noes, the matter is resolved in the negative.
Labor's Help to Buy scheme that would see the government provide financial support for 10,000 first-home buyers a year, paid back when the property sells, stalled by the Senate.
And low and middle incomes to get into the housing market when they would otherwise have Buckley's chance of doing it on their own. Now, who could argue with such a scheme?
Delay this bill for a couple of months and come and talk to the Greens.
Their demands tonight, rent caps and an end to negative gearing tax breaks in return for support.
Will you take this opportunity to be clear and to rule out any future changes to negative gearing?
Our housing policy is clear. It does not include the tax changes that you reference.
New home sales fell in August.
So, congratulations.
And it got harder to rent. Tonight, new data from SQM Research shows the total number of rental vacancies in our capital cities falling from 39,701 in July to 39,665 in August, just 1.3% of the market.
An ordinary person with an ordinary job should be able to afford an ordinary home of their own, whether to rent or to buy.
The cost of housing is the #1 contributor to the cost of living, which is the #1 issue for Australian voters. Tonight, the Prime Minister not ruling out a double disillusion election to send Australians to the polls all over housing.
Well, we'll wait and see.
To use the Minister's phrase, there's Buckley's chance of that. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs has been taken into federal custody in New York. He's long been the target of a sex trafficking investigation, but his lawyer says he has nothing to hide.
For months, Sean Diddy Combs has been the target of an aggressive sex trafficking probe. Now today,
some major breaking news to tell you about. Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested.
The hip-hop mogul was arrested in Manhattan by federal agents. Plagued by scandal, the 54-year-old had been hit with 10 lawsuits in 10 months. Earlier this year, this surveillance video surfaced of Combs violently shoving, kicking and dragging then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel.
He's a monster. He's literally a monster.
He is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal, said his lawyer, adding,
He voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide. The US Attorney for the Southern District of New York says he will move to unseal the indictment tomorrow. Combs has repeatedly denied all allegations, calling them sickening. In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Security has been beefed up at the border between Morocco and the Spanish enclave of Ceuta after hundreds attempted to illegally migrate into Europe. Young Moroccans scaled barbed wire fences en masse following calls on social media for a mass migration attempt. At least 90 people were arrested for using online platforms to incite the move. At least 16 people have been killed in floods across Europe, and authorities warn the worst could be to come. The devastating rain has already brought heartbreak to several countries as wildfires engulf other parts of the continent.
Fires and floods. The weather has turned deadly and disastrous in Europe. Storm Boris swallowing up parts of Poland, Austria, Romania, the Czech Republic, Hungary and Slovakia. As the water begins to subside in some areas, have a look at what's left behind. Historic, beautiful places, painted in mud, covered in wreckage as the death toll grows. Rescue efforts are ongoing to try and get people to safety as thousands are unable to go home and others remain missing. Houses, cars, roads and bridges washed away. Authorities are warning the worst may not be over as river levels continue to rise in some areas. While in Portugal, rain would be welcome as wildfires rage across the country, claiming lives and homes. The flames fanned by strong winds, leaving drivers on what looked like the highway to hell. A Russia-controlled region of Ukraine also unable to escape the extreme weather, with wildfires there killing several people. In London, Hannah Sinclair, 9 News.
3 weeks since a 9-month-old baby was attacked by a man with hot coffee at a Stones Corner park, his mum has shared good news about his progress. Sharing in a social media post, it's unlikely he will need any more skin grafts, saying she is so happy, thankful and amazed by his strength and healing. His attacker remains on the run. Fall from grace. One of the world's most recognisable faces learns his fate. The $400 million meth haul hidden in juice bottles. Plus the final message from the Titan sub before it imploded. And at the end of sport, the new breakthrough changing the lives of stroke sufferers. Three Queensland men have been arrested and are facing life behind bars over an alleged plot to smuggle more than $400 million worth of liquid meth into the state, hidden in bottles of juice. Australian Federal Police and Canadian authorities swapping out the drugs in Vancouver while the shipment was in transit from Brazil to a property in Jimboomba. The haul could have created enough crystal meth for 4 million street deals. The man who announced the death of the Queen to the world has been sentenced for making indecent images of children. Hugh Edwards was once a respected BBC presenter, a magistrate telling him that his reputation was now in tatters.
Dressed in a cardigan and dragging a suitcase, Hugh Edwards stares down cameras, walking into court to learn his fate. After 4 decades of delivering the world news at the BBC...
A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
The 63-year-old is now the headline, his mugshot released for the world to see. Edwards pleaded guilty in July to making indecent images of children. The court told it was in 2018 the journalist was randomly contacted by a uni student on Instagram. The Mail sent Edwards 377 images on WhatsApp, 41 of them explicit pictures and videos of children, some believed to be as young as 7. The broadcaster sent the now convicted pedophile cash gifts. The magistrate declared the man, who was once one of the most recognisable faces on TV, was vulnerable to an attack in prison. sparing him jail time. Instead, given a 6-month suspended sentence, he'll be put on the sex offenders register. Inside the courtroom, Hugh Edwards said that he was very sorry and regrets his actions, but outside, in front of his colleagues, well, he's got nothing to say. A shocking fall from grace now complete, the magistrate telling Edwards his reputation is in tatters. In London, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
All good here. That was one of the final messages from the crew of the Titan submersible before it imploded, killing all 5 crew members in June last year. A 2-week hearing into the incident is underway in the United States to determine what happened and prevent similar tragedies. The Coast Guard also releasing this image of the Titan sitting on the seafloor. Say goodbye to Christmas cash concerns. Tonight, get everything on your wish list without going into debt. How to take some of the stress out of the festive season. That's ahead. The heir to a $47 billion empire. The Murdoch's family fight over who will take over. The airlines where prices are taking off. What you need to know before your next holiday. Plus, there's a bear in there and a hiker as well. An influencer's daring stunt. A holiday in Australia is getting considerably dearer in the wake of Rex and Bonza's demise. New government research has found airfares have soared as competition evaporates.
Less competition, higher prices. This is a reality Australians are familiar with.
It always happens. When there's a third player in the industry, prices go down. When they exit, prices go up. Been going on 30 years.
Regional Express stopped flying in and out of capital cities in July. By August, prices had already jumped, according to federal government data. Former ACCC Chair Alan Fells says competition between Qantas and Virgin simply isn't fierce enough to keep prices down.
They have a somewhat cosy duopoly.
The Bureau of Infrastructure and Transport Index shows a 12.5% spike in the cost of the cheapest airfares since July. That means travellers could go from paying $150 to $170 for cheaper fares and from $350 to $400 for more expensive fares. Major airlines take issue with the snapshot data. Qantas saying in a statement, the BITRE report does not represent average fares which customers are paying, but Flight Centre CEO Graham Turner provides his own data, saying however you slice it, customers are paying more.
It is a fact, and there's no doubt that the domestic airfares now are higher than they were 12 months ago.
And other fees are now creeping higher too. In 3 weeks, Qantas will hike the cost of changing flight details from $99 to $119. With 2 airlines bowing out this year, Australians are taking what they can get. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Media mogul Rupert Murdoch is locked in a real-life succession battle to settle which of his children will take over his empire. The 93-year-old Australian fighting it out behind closed doors in a US court as he looks to future-proof his legacy.
It could well be the real-life finale of the TV hit show Succession. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch climbing out of an SUV with wife number 5. His favoured son Lachlan not far behind. Then came another 3 of his children, Elizabeth, Prudence and James, locked in a battle over the succession plan for their father's empire. And we've seen this before in the award-winning series which follows a rich family at war. In the Nevada courtroom, the 93-year-old wants the final say on what happens to his beloved news organisations when he dies.
Is your son Lachlan the natural heir apparent?
Well, I've got another son and a daughter, and we'll have to see how they work it out. I hope not fight it out.
That was 1995, and the fight is now on. Rupert wants to amend the family trust to ensure Lachlan retains control of his media companies, blocking his 3 less conservative siblings from joining forces and stripping Lachlan of power.
There are good reasons this battle is not being fought in a courtroom here in Australia or Great Britain. Cases in Reno, Nevada are held in private and the evidence is kept secret.
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
There's a bear in there and an influencer as well. This man getting a little too close for comfort while hiding out in a bear's den in Serbia. The grizzly can be seen climbing down the hole towards the visitor, having a sniff of his head. The 31-year-old escaping unharmed. Trouble brewing, concerns over the rising costs of coffee, how much a cup could soon cost. The promising sign of an interest rate cut. The scheme's taking money stress out of your Christmas celebrations. And a new bridge for saving southeast koalas. To finance, and record highs have been cracked on the market while all eyes are now turning towards the world's biggest central bank. Chris Kohler explains.
At 4 a.m. on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, we'll have a decision from the Federal Reserve about interest rates in the world's biggest economy. And the market predicts there's a good chance the Fed will slash 0.5% off its version of the cash rate. That'd signal a major shift for the global economy and add at least some pressure for a cut here in Australia too. The Aussie dollar is up a full US cent in value in the last week, and if a big cut happens, it might go higher. As for the share market, fresh record intraday highs were hit today. A big part of that has been Commonwealth Bank. Its shares are up 26% so far this year. BHP, on the other hand, is trading below $40 as the price of iron ore drifts lower this year. And it could keep that up. CBA analysts today theorised that $80 a tonne might be in the future for Australia's most important export.
Checking the fuel prices now. The average for unleaded petrol in Brisbane, $1.72, diesel $1.84. The average on the Gold Coast for unleaded, $1.71. RACQ says the fuel prices are still falling, so only fill up where you can find unleaded for $1.66 or less. A warning tonight, Queenslanders will soon face paying more than $7 for a cup of coffee or risk losing hundreds of cafes altogether. A major industry group is calling for government support to keep hospitality venues open.
No matter how you like your morning brew, the price is about to be piping hot. The cost of a standard cup of coffee now on track to surpass $7.
It's still not in line with what it should be if it went up relative to all of the expenses going up.
At the Corner Store Cafe in Toowong, rising costs are forcing adjustments to the menu every 3 months. A small flat white now at $5.20.
It's a very fine balance of trying to put out the best products that you possibly can, charge the most reasonable price that you can and not make things too expensive.
Prices up by around 10% over the last 2 years, while costs have increased by 30%.
Every few days we get more emails. We've got another price increase, another price increase.
And particularly labour. So labour's about 40-45% of a cup of coffee, but then you've got your gas, electricity, your insurances. These are all going through the roof.
The coffee commune taking aim today at both sides of politics for a lack of consultation in the lead up to the state election, warning of mass cafe closures without more support.
There's all these red tape issues that are happening.
And we've supported small business by providing those $650 electricity rebates.
It wouldn't be possible for government to particularly know what they can do to support unless they go and talk to the people to find out.
According to the coffee commune, Queensland cafes are making roughly $1 a profit per coffee and selling an average of $300 per day. They don't want to charge $7 for a flat white, but as prices continue to rise, they're quickly running out of options.
50% of cafes right now are not even breaking even. We've got to find that happy medium where the cafe owner is making a little bit of profit, but it's also affordable for the consumer.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
Grinning from ear to ear as she walked into Brisbane Airport this morning, 3-time Paralympic medalist Alexa Leary is back on home soil after a well-deserved holiday. The Queensland Golden Girl admitting her Paris achievements are still sinking in, but her dad almost lost her bag at an airport with the medals she has to show for it.
Dad's a speed demon, just, you know what, goes and puts it somewhere else. Everyone walks away, leaves it there. And then I was crying. I was like, where's my bag?
You know, 2 gold medals, all the stuff in it. I was dead.
The star swimmer showing no signs of slowing down. She's now got her sights on breaking the world record again at the World Championships next year. A new wildlife bridge has been proposed to protect koalas and joeys like these crossing the Gold Coast Highway for food and shelter. The LNP committing to build the $2.5 million bridge between Burleigh Ridge Park and Burleigh Heads National Park if it forms government next month. A coaching shake-up for one of Queensland's biggest sporting clubs. A special delivery for the Lions as Brisbane sweats on the fitness of Lachie Neale. At the end of sport, the game-changing tool improving treatment for stroke patients.
And it was still a little windy on the coast today, but those winds have already eased. We are looking at some light northwesters tomorrow morning. Right now in the city, it's nice and clear, a light easterly and 18 degrees.
Good evening. The Cowboys will avoid being derailed by disrupted preparation for Friday's semi-final in Sydney, with the NRL to send the team down on a charter flight from Townsville. Some tough love from coach Todd Payten, also priming North Queensland for a premiership assault.
Being surrounded by the Cowboys' storied history at the club's base in Townsville, a reminder of the legacy of success Todd Payten wants to uphold.
I'm very lucky, very fortunate to do what I do and have a good group, good town, good club, and something that I've wanted to do since I retired and able to do something that I'm really passionate about.
Not afraid to make tough decisions since axing premiership-winning halfback Chad Townsend for Jake Clifford, the Cowboys are yet to lose.
Do you feel justified with that now?
Oh, I don't know if that's the right word. We just made the decision we thought that was best for the team. It was based purely around tackling in our defence. So Jake's done a really good job. He's kicking the ball well.
Friday's elimination final pits them against the Sharks, who inflicted North Queensland's biggest defeat of the year, a 42-6 thumping back in round 7.
Yeah, we got our pants pulled down. It was 12-0 early. I was in that tough little period we went through, and you know we're going down to Sydney and we need to go up a gear.
Undaunted by playing in Sydney, only the Storm possess a better away record than the Cowboys this season after tinkering with their travel schedule.
Nothing too out of the box. We just talked about our routines, put a bit more thought into what we do when we're at the hotel and then again on game day.
Reigning premiers Penrith await if they stay alive, but there's no fearing anyone in Cowboys country.
Fear ourselves more than anyone, you know, not trade on our talent and do the hard things over and over and over again, and we've got a footy team.
Adam Jackson, 9 News.
There's no player under more pressure in the NRL final series than Nicho Hynes, the Sharks halfback, out to erase perceptions. He struggles on the big stage, with Cronulla having lost 7 straight finals games.
I've played in a lot of big games. Sometimes I haven't came off, and I feel like sometimes I have, and I just want to prove to my teammates and this club that we can win a finals game.
Hynes claims he was unaware of calls for him to be dropped for Friday's final against the Cowboys. A huge call from Storm skipper Harry Grant, labelling everyone in the side as being in career best form. Craig Bellamy still has his men training hard in their week off before their preliminary final, as they encourage AFL supporters to switch codes.
There's only the Geelong Cats left, so hopefully we can give the Melbournians something to talk about too. Switch over to some rugby league for the next couple of weeks.
The Dolphins, meanwhile, are dealing with a devastating blow. Scans confirming an ACL tear to Trey Fuller suffered during the Queensland Cup final series. The fullback will undergo surgery next week and faces a 9-month recovery. Touted as a Lions star of the future, Will Ashcroft is already shining, a huge part of Brisbane's surge to a 3rd straight preliminary final. He'll be crucial for the side again in Saturday's clash with Geelong, with a grand final berth on the line.
A hero's welcome at Lions HQ, thousands turning out with the team just 1 win away from a grand final return. Fans starting to believe they can go all the way.
Hey, they've got this year. Yep, this is our year.
Lachie Neale with little involvement in today's training session as he nurses a foot concern. So too Will Ashcroft, taking it easy. The 20-year-old pivotal in Brisbane's finals run despite being less than 3 months removed from his return from an ACL injury.
It's remarkable for
for anyone but Will Ashcroft. He just played with freedom. You could see that. He was so strong. He willed himself onto the contest. Yeah, we're pretty glad that we've got him in our side, that's for sure.
Chocolate milk, not the wisest pre-training breakfast for Charlie Cameron, but fit and firing, the Cats wary of just how dangerous a Lions forward line can be.
They got stars everywhere, really. It's a great challenge for us and yeah, really excited for it.
The Lions are looking to become just the 4th team this century to make the grand final from outside the top 4, putting them one step closer to making up for last year's heartbreak.
Just because you put yourself in the position doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Hence, we're just trying to enjoy every moment. Hopefully that can get us to the point where we can have the ultimate success.
Jacob Funk, 9 News.
A coaching shake-up is taking place at the Brisbane Heat, with Darren Lehman resigning from his role with Queensland Cricket. The 54-year-old, who first took charge of the Heat in 2011, returned to be an assistant coach for last season's Big Bash winning squad. He stood down to focus on commentary duties. So bye-bye Buff Lofty, and no chalky milk for him before his commentary duties.
No, not here either.
No.
Thank you, Dom. Well, almost 60,000 Australians experience a stroke every year, and 3/4 of them will leave hospital with ongoing side effects left undetected. University of Queensland researchers developing a new screening tool to identify subtle symptoms and treat those who've previously been overlooked.
He had no family history and didn't see it coming. 5 years ago, Adrian Skerritt became one of the 450,000 Australian stroke survivors.
And I sat down and I slumped over, and that was kind of it.
The 56-year-old spent 3 months in hospital, but even now his recovery continues.
You still have the memory, you just got to rummage around a bit more amongst the stuff and pull it out.
Tell me as many fruit and vegetables as you can.
Queensland researcher Professor Gail Robinson spent 12 years unlocking a new screening test for patients like Adrian who've suffered a brain injury.
So we're asking them to describe things, we might ask them to name things, we ask what they understand.
Previously, the assessments have taken 2 to 3 hours, but this one's finished in 30 minutes, identifying red flag symptoms requiring further rehabilitation that have previously been overlooked.
At the moment, a lot of these impairments are going undetected.
72% of stroke patients leave hospital with complex psychological deficits that aren't picked up. Left untreated, they can significantly impact one's everyday life.
Like, why am I putting the coffee in the freezer instead of the milk in the fridge? What we want to do is pick up on any problems before people leave hospital, because once you go home, it's harder to access rehabilitation. But more than that, it's really difficult to even know what's wrong.
Abby Guerin, 9 News.
In just 3 minutes, how to guarantee everything on your Christmas wish list without going into debt. The way to take the stress out of the holiday season and say goodbye to cash worries. That's moments away. But firstly, Garry is back with your full weather forecast. Gaz, it felt pretty cold this morning.
It was a little chilly in the city this morning, Andrew. Not as bad as inland, though. A frosty one in Oakey this morning, a low of -2. Thankfully, not quite as cool tomorrow morning. But your full forecast up next.
With Christmas just over 3 months away, it's time to start saving for the November sales, with bigger than ever deals expected. Spurred by a downturn in consumer spending, it's been a tough year for retailers, and experts say they'll be offering deep discounts to bring customers back.
Christmas is the season for giving, which also means spending. But savvy shoppers can save big bucks by planning ahead.
I have a separate savings account, so I just pop a little bit of money in it each week, and so it takes the stress of not having to come up with lump sums of money at Christmas.
By her own admission, mother of two Kim Falovic is crazy for Christmas. She has an entire room just for storing decorations and wrapped up her Christmas shopping during the end of financial year sales.
Waiting for the sales, you get 20% off, you get free shipping, you get all sorts of bargains by just shopping around.
If you missed out in June, don't despair. The best deals are still to come in November. The week-long Click Frenzy sales kick off on the 11th, followed by the Black Friday to Cyber Monday sales, starting on the 29th.
It's possible to save anywhere between 50 to 80%, remembering it's not just products that'll be on sale, but also travel offers as well.
We're probably looking at sales bigger and better than ever before as retailers look to chase the sales that haven't quite come this year with the cost of living downturn.
Another tactic, locking away rewards points until the end of the year. For example, the Woolworths Everyday Rewards scheme offers a Bank for Christmas option, with savings unlocked from November 13th. Banks also offer Christmas savings accounts, or you can join an online savings account with high introductory interest rates.
You can get about 5.5%. Which every little bit helps when it comes to paying for those presents.
And if you want to get super organised like Kim, Christmas shopping for the following year begins on Boxing Day.
It's never too early to start shopping for Christmas.
Ashlyn Kirkellis, 9 News.
Time now for all of your weather details. Garry, are we expecting some heat later this week?
We certainly are, Andrew, and that should start to move in on Thursday as temperatures touch 30 degrees sort of Friday, Saturday, and quite warm into the weekend. So a run of some very warm days. It'll start to climb a little tomorrow, some light northwesterly winds in the morning, and that'll be the start of some warmer air heading our way. Goodbye to those cooler southerly winds. It will drop down a little overnight, though. Let's have a look what we recorded over southeast Queensland. As we said earlier, a chilly morning and frosty in Oakey with a low of -2, 5 degrees in Ipswich this morning, and about 12 in the city. Daytime temperatures, well, low 20s around the coast and Bayside, reaching mid-20s inland. The high today, 25, recorded right here in Brizzy, Archerfield, Ipswich, Gatton, Greenbank and Oakey. The weather map, strong winds ahead of a cold front across Tasmania, Victoria and South Oz. Rain for Tassie, though. Showers and storms for the Northern Territory and WA. The showers across far north Queensland should start to ease. Interstate, we're looking at a sunny and mild day for Perth, Adelaide and Melbourne. Windy with showers in Hobart, windy in Canberra, sunny and warm for Sydney tomorrow, 26 degrees, and a shower or two still for Darwin. Queensland, a shower or two Cairns, cloudy in Townsville, partly cloudy and mild for Mackay, Rocky, Gladstone and Bundaberg. Expect some fog about tomorrow morning for Maryborough and Gympie. Partly cloudy in 28 in Mount Isa, Longreach 31 and dry and sunny tomorrow. Some early frost about in Roma. Southeast Queensland, early morning fog clearing to a sunny day, light to moderate northwest to northeasterlies. It'll be cool overnight, temperatures into the single digits again inland. Daytime temperatures mostly mid-20s, Ipswich and Gatton a high of 28 degrees, and it's on the rise. Moreton Bay, light and variable winds becoming northerly, 15 to 20 knots in the afternoon. First half of the day will be perfect, boaties. Brisbane tomorrow, early morning fog, clearing to a fine sunny day, freshening northeasterlies later, a high of 25 degrees. Your outlook, partly cloudy Thursday, 29, sunny and 30 for Friday and Saturday. Partly cloudy Sunday, 29, Monday, 28. Ipswich, cool mornings, followed by fine and mostly sunny days over the next week. Daytime temperatures in the low 30s each day from Thursday. The Goldie, mostly fine over the next week. Daytime temperatures hitting high 20s from Thursday. 29 on Friday will be the warmest day. Still a few cool mornings, while on the Sunshine Coast, mostly sunny over the next 7 days. Friday 29, Saturday 30 degrees, Sunday and Monday topping out at 27. So not a bad day tomorrow. Temperatures will be pretty close to average, but really heating up from Thursday on, Andrew.
Yeah, looking good down the line though. Thanks, Garry. And before we go, here's a look at a story you won't want to miss tomorrow night on 9 News.
Queensland's new 50% off mega sales weekend. Big brands and popular stores joining forces for the first time to offer exclusive deals and discounts, slashing the price of homewares, hardware, toys, groceries and more. How to lock in the biggest savings. 9 News, your news tomorrow.
And that is 9 News Queensland for this evening. Ali Langdon is next with the current affair. Thanks for your company, and from all of us, good night.